Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, continuing our freshman spotlight series as we take a look back at that 2023 class and talk about some guys who are going to have year one impacts coming this fall. And we're going back to Lincoln, Nebraska. We already talked Malachi Coleman on the offensive side of the ball. Now we're talking on the defense side of the ball and Princwill Umanmielen, who is one of the more fun guys to turn on the film. And what it sounds like is he might be a starter day one. And I think when you look at freshmen playing early, there's two kind of things to that recipe. One, are they physically mature enough to take that field, especially when you're playing on the line of scrimmage and handle playing at that college football level? Princwill all the way up to 240 pounds that summer or winter strength and conditioning program, putting some weight on him. You take a look at that spring game. He certainly looks physically capable of hanging at the college football level. And then the second part is taking a look at that depth chart and talking about where does Princewill fit in on that defensive line rotation. And it sounds like he's going to be a starter, at least being an integral part in that rotation after Nebraska lost a lot of guys on that defensive line, specifically at that edge position. So what we're going to do, we're going to get into the film, talk about some traits from that senior season film that are going to translate early, and then take a look at that depth chart, talk about where he fits in. Now, before we get into it again, just want to say thank you to you guys, and especially the Nebraska fans, some of the best fans in the country. Anytime I get a chance to talk some Cornhuskers football, I always do, and the support you guys have shown does mean a lot. We've been talking a lot of Nebraska on the recruiting trail. Ton of Go Big Reds in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys, and if you do enjoy the updates, you enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's get into Princwill, and I just want to turn on the film and just talk about some of the stuff that really is going to translate. And the first thing I want to focus on is just the juice this kid has off the line of scrimmage, beating tackles with not only his burst and bend, but also his length and power in his hand. This is a guy that I think primarily wins with his athleticism, using his speed, but can also translate that speed to power extremely well using that length. And you're going to see a plethora of ways he can beat tackles. First thing, just the athlete. I mean, that's a left tackle that really doesn't have a chance at matching up with Princwill athletically. And that's something that, I mean, you won't hear me say a negative thing about Garrett Nelson, one of my favorite players for Nebraska over the last couple of years. Garrett Nelson was more of a heavy-handed guy that likes to take on blocks with that physicality. Princwill, on the other hand, like he's got a different level of juice, speed, burst that he's going to bring, and that stuff is going to translate, and it's going to translate early. Another thing I want to say, and you kind of see it here, they play from his high school days. They played that 3-down lineman set, and that's what Tony White is probably going to play at Nebraska as well. You're going to see a lot of different formations. But saying that, Princewill's comfortable playing all along that defensive line, playing the wide nine, playing the 5 tech, and he does it all at a really good level. And this is the play that I kind of want to talk about. I don't think anyone has a question about Princewill's ability to get after the passer. But as a true freshman, you have all this athleticism, you have all this juice. Can you stop the run? Can you stack and shed blocks, get behind the line of scrimmage, and be a force in the run game as well? And you take a look at this, just dog ragging that tight end, I should say, and making a play in the run game. That's what's going to be vital. But again, how twist up this kid is, the closing speed in terms of finishing off sacks, finishing off plays, he certainly has. And again, that 3-down lineman, you see him play with his hand in the dirt. You see him playing standing up. Any way you cut it, this guy is going to bring big time pass rush capability to this Nebraska team that I think Nebraska was just couldn't really find last year, right? I mean, you bring in a guy like O'Shawn Mathis, and it just seemed like those guys never really panned out. Prince, I mean, this is like, and you'll see this, like you see this formation, like this is what Tony White's defense is going to look like. It's what it looked like at Syracuse, and Princwill very comfortable doing a lot of different things in terms of getting behind the line of scrimmage, rushing the passer, again, burst, bend, power to go through blocks. He checks all the boxes. Now I want to take a look at this depth chart. I don't think we have any questions, especially when you turn on the spring game, of his physicality and how well he can handle that college football level. Now we're talking about, what's this defensive line rotation look like? And this is he listening to some interviews. Princewill's been worked at that outside linebacker spot. He's been working at edge, or that defensive end spot. He's been kind of working everywhere. I think he said he settles in at that edge spot, that defensive end spot, and you let MJ Sherman, the transfer from Georgia, play that outside linebacker, Rhule, who I think he's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be really good. But you take a look at the rotation. AJ Rollins, I heard some really, really good things out of spring as well from him. But outside of that, like I does seem like Princewill offers the probably the highest upside in terms of pass rusher at that DN spot. And you have a really good rotation with Ty Robinson and Nash Hutchmaker. And then at that defensive tackle spot, another guy we got to talk about, Cam Lenhart. He will certainly be featured on the freshman spotlight. We're going to dig into his film at IMG as well. I really like this rotation on that defensive line. Cam Lenhart, Elijah Judy, two really athletic big bodies to play that defensive tackle spot. And then you have just two really physical guys in Ty Robinson and Nash Hutchmaker playing that nose. And then it leaves Princewill and AJ Rollins to really get after it at that defensive end spot. You take a look at that defensive line rotation for Nebraska. I am really optimistic, and you might see some growing pains with the true freshmen, but both these guys, Cam Lenhart and Princewill, have enrolled early. They got that college football body after the winter workouts and spring practice and summer workouts. If you're a Nebraska fan, I think you're really excited about, and it's rare at a Power 5 program, especially a program that's as talented as Nebraska. And that's something we've talked about. This group, it's a talented group. It has been a talented group. Their record is not a great reflection of how talented this team is. And I think, I don't know, I don't want to get into the Scott Frost era, but there were some problems there, obviously. This is it's rare to see, but I think they got some special guys in those three guys in Princewill, Cam Lenhart, and Malachi Coleman, who are going to be playing early and going to be being impact makers. Year one for Nebraska, going against Minnesota year one, you're going to find out really quickly if Princewill can handle it physically, because they're going to want to play heavy. They're going to want to run the football. Can Princewill hold up and be a force in the run game? Because I don't think we have any questions about how well he can get after the passer. The questions are, can he be physically in that run game, especially playing in that Big Ten West? I'm really optimistic. You saw the film. I think this dude has phenomenal length and bend in terms of rushing the passer, but also that physicality and that strength to hold up in the run game as well. One of the more special kids from that 2023 class that is going to be playing early for Nebraska. Again, wanted to keep it short for you guys, but appreciate you guys checking it out. Cam Lenhart coming up next. So again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.